All right, let's go to Chicago as we get to the futures trade and check in with our good friend Todd Horwitz. Todd made it in today. Well, what a trooper.
I had agri-liquid helping melt my snow.
I guess, maybe so. How much snow do you have in the Chicago area right now? It's still snowing, isn't it?
It's mixed. From where I lived, we had about 10 inches.
Wow.
Down in the city, very little. But I drove in this morning with no plowed roads. It was like the old days.
Boy, you got that four-wheel drive working for you. Well,
Absolutely.
Grain trade here. Todd, your thoughts here as we get toward mid-March. And technically, I'm watching some of your posts that you put out there every day, and a lot of questions about this market right now.
You know, Mark, I think that we've seen almost exactly as we scripted it last week, and that was we wanted to see $10 on the beans. We broke below 10 this morning and came back up, and we're right now, right before I went on air, I was looking, they were $10 exactly. I think that's going to be a very key level to watch. As they say in horse racing, they can go either way from here. I would expect them to hold and look for higher prices. I think corn came down to 360, which was our target, and is now moving higher, and wheat came down to about 425, 428, and is now moving higher. So I think that's kind of what I was looking for, and I'm certainly happy to be a buyer of corn and wheat in these levels. I need to watch the beans a little bit longer here because it's a real crucial area that they're going to make a decision. I do believe they'll break higher, but I want to make sure that they can hold above. They held that old low of 994, so that was good to see, and I want to see what happens here now around that $10 level. I think that it will be a buy, but I'm not going to commit yet today.
Very good, and we're seeing more of those estimates coming out here of how many acres will be planted, that kind of thing as well. If we were going to break lower, I want to talk about beans in here because you say you're more comfortable saying that corn and wheat look a little more stable. If we're going to break in beans, what's the risk on the downside, roughly?
Well, I mean, I think your first risk would be like 940. All right,
oh,
and
okay.
you know, again, there can be different levels that you want to look at, but I don't think we're going to get that far down here. I really think that you're going to see a lot of things change here overall, Mark, especially with the outside markets. You know, we've got a big day tomorrow with the Fed, and I think there's going to be some quirky things happening with the dollar because if you've been watching all the markets combined together, the dollar's been fairly weak based on what's going to happen and based on what the other markets are doing, which indicates to me that the dollar's going to fall, which will make it even better for the beans, and that might be the thing that actually saves the beans in this market as well.
Dollar, right, the June contract there, 101. So tomorrow, expecting, what are you expecting from the Fed tomorrow?
Well, they say they're going to raise a quarter. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if they raised a half. But what I'm really looking at, though, is the dollar action has been very, very weak based on the rest of the action. If you look at the bond market, the bonds have been getting creamed every single day. And that's a sign that they know something more than what we're seeing right now. Right. So it looks like it that way. And I know that I believe the dollar's going back to the mid to low 90s.
All right. And take a look at the let's take a look at wheat. You mentioned wheat kind of and a number there, but earlier, a week or so ago, you were looking at wheat, maybe if I remember, saying it might be the strongest of the three going forward.
It still is. It's actually, percentage-wise, it's had the biggest move from bottom to top here. I love wheat. I think it's going a lot higher. Again, I'm looking for an over $5 print this year at some point and look to buy it in every opportunity. I think it's going to continue to work its way higher. I do think it's the strongest and it's the most misunderstood. It's been the stepchild for quite a while, and I think we're going to see, again, a weaker dollar would really help propel the wheat into some of the regions that it hasn't been able to get to lately.
Yeah, and again, the dollar. You have for quite some time expected the dollar to fall well below 100. It's just 101 right now, 101.38. So low to mid 90s is where you think it might level out.
Yeah, I think I'll tell you what, Mark. If you take a look at the crude oil chart and see what happened there, you put that same information to the dollar. That's what you're going to see. That's the action I think we're going to see in the dollar. I think we're going to see a big, hard sell-off once it decides to break. Right now, it's just been teetering around 100 to 102, 100 to 102. I think once it gets below 100, it'll be 95 before you can say hello. Very good. And another 88 cents lower in crude oil. Todd, we're going to take a break. We'll come back, get your thoughts. The livestock trade. Todd Horwitz, live from Chicago. Bubba Trading, BubbaTrading.com, the website. Check that out. We'll have more from him coming right up.
And welcome back to Market Day Report. As promised, back to Chicago and live at the floor at the CME Group. Todd Horwitz rejoining us now, looking at the beef and pork trade. Todd, you're mentioning that for most part, the grain complex has moved down to levels you thought it would. Is the beef trade, cattle and feeder cattle, are those futures doing what you thought they might do a week or so ago?
No, I thought they'd be going lower, and they made an attempt, and they failed to go lower. But I think what we're seeing here, Mark, is I think there's a little bit of a cash squeeze going on right now.
Okay.
And I think the cash on the outside is kind of trying to hold up or buoy these futures a little bit higher. I think that's going to relieve itself fairly soon here, and I'm looking for significantly lower prices here in cattle as a trade. Again, I think I'm still looking for 110, 112 in the fat cattle. I think we're going to get down there. I think nothing really looks that great when we look at it, especially when you go out into the out months. You look in August again, we're really down and dirty low.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to see some selling pressure. Now again, long term, I'm very bullish to space, but again, we've gotten kind of away from ourselves the way that I look at it, and it's kind of pushed up on an air pocket without any real support, and that's what I'm concerned about, which I think will make the sell-off much bigger. I think the feeders are the same way. They just kind of took off last week, like on Thursday or Friday, and it was up, and it's been up and away. And that's usually a sign of the end. That's usually where the panic buying had come in and squeezed these things up, and they basically went up in a parabolic range there. And again, I'd be a seller pretty much across the board for now. Again, I'm looking for certain numbers, which would be 118 in the feeders. Now, I guess I'll be adjusting that price as we roll forward, because obviously margin is going to come off the board in a week or two. So we'll change that price by tomorrow. I'll have a better price for you on those. But I'm looking for lower prices, and I'm certainly looking for lower prices in hogs as well. I think that they're just, right now they look okay, but I think they're just well ahead of themselves. I think they're just seeing a little bit of a squeeze all the way around.
Well, let's talk about hogs here, showing April up 18 right now, 70.40, May up 3, 74.78. Talk about that pork complex then.
I think it's a little bit overdone, Mark. Again, we had a big squeeze, and they've been fairly strong. Remember, we hit lows back at the end of last year, and it looked like they were going to go to zero. And of course, now we've got this market that's just moving forward. And then we had that little squeeze Feb, April. Now I think we're just kind of churning around up here. And part of the problem is that the outside markets are looking for places to go. So you've seen some money flow in here, but overall, I think you're going to see that these markets, the outside markets, are going to start to collapse here pretty soon. And I think that's going to pull some money out, and I think it's going to bring prices down. Again, I'm looking for 62 to 64 basis April right now. So I think we'll see those prices. I'm not really concerned about it. I think we'll get there, but then I think that'll be a great buying opportunity. I think that'll make the subsequent rally much stronger down the road.
Down the fourth quarter here. What is that interest rate, if we do get one tomorrow, quarter or even a half a point? What's that going to mean to our beef and pork complex?
I don't think it'll mean a real lot right here. I think actually, as concerned as people are about the rates going higher, that might be the most bullish thing that could happen to the farmers and producers and the small community banks. They need higher rates because they need to be able to lend out money, and they haven't been able to provide that liquidity, which has given them a little bit too much control over what happens in the free markets. So I think that actually in the long term, it might give you a short-term shock, but longer term, it's going to be much more positive for farmers and producers and community banks, because that's what we live off of out there, is usually mostly community banks, and they've had a lot of trouble over the last few years with the way the interest rate policy has been designed.
Yeah, pretty tight margins there. Todd, thanks for all your time as always. We look forward to keeping in touch. In fact, back with us tomorrow.
Thanks, Mark. Have a great day.
Glad you made it in today safe, and be safe going home. Todd Horwitz live from Chicago. They're battling a lot of weather there, but he made it in his four-wheel drive.